The city never truly sleeps, but that night it seemed colder than even its usual indifferent chill. Streetlights flickered above empty sidewalks, casting long shadows that danced across the cracked pavement. Daniel huddled against the brick wall of an abandoned storefront, a threadbare blanket wrapped around him, and his daughter, Lily, asleep against his chest. She was only 6 years old, with hair the color of autumn wheat and a smile that could melt the hardest heart. Yet tonight, her soft breathing and fragile innocence were all he had to fight for. For months, Daniel had struggled to survive. A factory closure had cost him his job, eviction notices had forced him onto the streets, and a series of bureaucratic dead ends left him with nowhere to turn. People passed him every day, some pretending not to notice, others tossing spare change without meeting his gaze. But Daniel never lost his focus. He had Lily, and he would do anything to keep her safe. Earlier that evening, Daniel had been walking with Lily near a quiet alley, searching for a warm place to rest. He had noticed 2 men leaning against a corner, their posture tense, eyes scanning the street in a predatory way. Something about them didn't feel right. He had learned to trust instincts like these, instincts that had kept him alive more than once. As they began to move toward them, Daniel ducked into the shadows, whispering to Lily, "Stay quiet, sweetheart, stay calm." Then he saw a police officer approaching. Uniformed, confident, holding a flashlight, he represented the law, but Daniel knew that appearances could be deceiving. The streets had taught him that danger could strike from anyone, even those who claimed to protect. Still, he had to try. He stepped forward cautiously, raising his hand in a subtle signal. His voice trembled, but the words were sharp and urgent. "Don't talk." The officer froze, taken aback by the intensity and urgency in Daniel's tone. It wasn't disrespect, it wasn't rebellion. There was something in Daniel's eyes, an unspoken warning, a sense of danger that demanded attention. The officer scanned the alley, and that's when the 2 men lunged from the shadows. Time slowed. Daniel's heart raced, but his mind sharpened. He shoved Lily behind a dumpster, shielding her tiny body with his own. He grabbed a rusty pipe he had been leaning against the wall for warmth and swung with all his might. The first man stumbled backward, surprised by the strength and ferocity of a man most would dismiss as powerless. The second man advanced, fists raised, but the officer reacted instantly, shouting, commanding, and moving with precision. The alley erupted in chaos. Metal clanged, voices shouted, and the night seemed alive with danger. Daniel fought with desperation, not hatred. Every swing of the pipe was fueled by love, by a determination to protect Lily at all costs. The officer managed to subdue the second attacker, securing him against the wall until backup arrived. By the time the commotion ended, the street was filled with stunned neighbors who had watched from windows and doorways. They expected to see a homeless man overpowered, perhaps hurt, or worse. Instead, they saw Daniel holding Lily tightly, their bodies entwined in protective embrace, while the officer caught his breath beside them. The sense of shock in the onlookers' eyes was palpable. The man they had ignored, stepped over, and dismissed every day had saved a child, fought off 2 criminals, and stood unbroken. Word of that night spread quickly. Local media picked up the story, portraying Daniel not as a victim, but as a hero. Volunteers brought blankets, meals, and clothing. Community centers reached out with programs for housing and employment assistance. One local business offered him a small job with flexible hours, understanding the challenges of a man who had survived the streets while raising a child alone. The police officer, initially wary, became a friend, guiding Daniel through the bureaucracy that had once been his barrier to survival. Yet, even with support pouring in, Daniel faced challenges every day. Life on the streets had taken a toll, physically, emotionally, and mentally. He battled fatigue, depression, and the constant stress of protecting Lily. There were days when he doubted himself, nights when he wondered if the world could ever see him as anything more than invisible. But each time, he looked at Lily's sleeping face and found a renewed sense of purpose. Her trust and her love were his anchor. As the months passed, Daniel slowly rebuilt his life. He secured better employment, found temporary housing, and began to establish a routine that included school for Lily, meals, and safety. But the night in the alley remained with him, etched into his memory. It was a reminder that courage isn't about physical strength alone, it's about moral strength, about making the right choice when the world is silent, when danger is imminent, and when no one else believes in you. Daniel began sharing his story publicly, speaking at community events, shelters, and schools. He told parents struggling alone, teenagers facing hardship, and fellow homeless individuals that even in the darkest nights, courage and love could shine through. His message was simple but profound. It doesn't matter where you start or how powerless you feel, what matters is the heart, the willingness to act, and the commitment to protect those you love. The police officer who had once been a stranger became a mentor of sorts, teaching Daniel about advocacy, how to navigate legal systems, and even self-defense. They developed a friendship built on mutual respect, forged in the fire of a shared traumatic experience. The community that had once overlooked Daniel now saw him as a symbol of resilience, a man who had transformed despair into courage and action. In time, Daniel realized that his life had shifted in ways he had never imagined. He wasn't just surviving anymore, he was thriving. He was a parent, a protector, a mentor, and a hero in his own right. The nights on the cold streets, the fear, the hunger, the isolation, they had all shaped him, but they did not define him. He defined himself through courage, through love, and through the actions that mattered most. The story of Daniel and Lily became a beacon of hope, a tale that traveled far beyond the city streets. People who read about their struggle and triumph were moved, inspired, and reminded that heroism comes in many forms. It's not always about grand gestures or fame, it's often about the quiet, relentless determination of someone who refuses to give up, even when everything seems lost. And so, the next time you walk past someone struggling in silence, remember this story. Heroism doesn't always wear a uniform or carry a sword. Sometimes, it's a homeless single dad, standing between danger and his child, whispering, "Don't talk," and acting with a courage that shocks the world. In that moment, love and bravery became inseparable, proving that even the most overlooked among us can change lives in ways that inspire everyone. By the time Daniel and Lily found a safe home, their journey had become a testament to resilience, to human kindness, and to the extraordinary lengths a parent will go to protect their child. The man who had once been invisible now stood as a symbol, teaching the world that courage and love could turn even the darkest circumstances into triumph. And as the sun rose on their new life, Daniel looked down at Lily's sleeping face and whispered softly, "We made it, and we'll always protect each other." In that moment, the world felt right again, a world where even the smallest voices can echo with unimaginable strength.